Somebody shout, show me my dreams. From 2000 to 2004, I had the opportunity to play basketball at Kentucky State University, and I'm 35 years of age, so I no longer play the game of basketball. I don't play it, but my children have now picked up the game. A few years ago, when they first started playing the game of basketball, I began to teach them the best way that I could how to shoot the basketball in the proper manner. And they became frustrated, agitated, and irritated because every time they shot the basketball, they would miss the goal. The problem is not that they would miss it, but the problem is why they would miss the shot. They missed the goal for two different reasons. The first reason they missed the goal was not because they were not aiming for the goal, but they were not aiming high enough. The second reason that they missed the goal is because they did not use the square. I'm going to say it again. They missed the goal not because they did not aim, but they missed the goal because they did not aim high enough. The second reason that they missed the goal is because they did not use the square. As this pertains to our dreams on tonight, I want you to know that the word dream is interchangeable with goal, and the word goal is interchangeable with dream. I'm going to say it again. The word dream is interchangeable with goal, and the word goal is interchangeable with dream. And all of us in here under the sound of my voice have dreams. All of us in here under the sound of my voice have goals. All of us in here under the sound of my voice have things that we desire to accomplish and achieve inside of this lifetime. But one of the major reasons that many of us have not achieved our dreams, and one of the major reasons that many of us have not achieved our goals, is not because we are not aiming for the goal, but we are not aiming high enough. I'm going to say that again. Many of us fail to accomplish our dreams, and many of us fail to accomplish our goals, not because we are not aiming for the goal, but we are not aiming high enough. We are not aiming high enough because many of us have a limited view of God. But I want you to understand on tonight that God is infinitely bigger than my biggest dream. God is infinitely bigger than my biggest problem, and God's grace is infinitely bigger than my biggest mistake. Whenever you make up inside of your mind that I'm not going to have a limited view of God, you can aim higher because God can handle your dream. Somebody shout, God can handle my dream. The second reason that many of our dreams are not coming to pass is because many of us are afraid to be called square. What does it mean that we're afraid to be called square? We are afraid to stand out, and we are afraid to be different. But I want you to know that God didn't make you to live like everybody else. God didn't make you to walk like everybody else. God didn't make you to talk like everybody else. The Bible declares in 1 Peter chapter number 2, starting with verse number 9, that you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people. That word peculiar literally means that God made me to stand out. And so therefore, as a consequence, many of us are not achieving our dreams. We are not achieving our goals for the same reasons that my sons at a young age had a hard time putting the basketball inside of the goal. They were not aiming high enough, and they were not using the square. Many of us are not aiming high enough because we have a limited view of God, and many of us are afraid to be called square. Such is the case with Joseph in Genesis 37. Let the church shout Joseph. In Genesis 37, we are introduced to a young man, 17 years of age, by the name of Joseph, who has a dream. He dreams that one day his brothers that are older than him are going to be bowing down to him. In layman's terms, Joseph dreams that one day I am going to be large and in charge. But by the time we get to the fulfillment of Joseph's dream in Genesis chapter number 50, around verse number 21, it is quite interesting to note that Joseph is large and in charge, but it's not to stroke his own ego. But the only reason that God brings his dream to pass is in order to be a blessing to somebody else. There is a famine throughout all of the land. Joseph is in Egypt, and Egypt is the only place that has food and the only place that has water. So when Joseph's dream is fulfilled, Joseph is in charge of the food distribution. So guess what? You got to go to Joseph to get food, and you have to go to Joseph to get water. And so therefore, as a consequence, his brothers who hated him because of his dream now have to see him again when his dream comes to pass. But by the time his dream comes to pass, he's large and in charge, not to stroke his own ego, but he's large and in charge that he might be able to feed everybody who's hungry, and he's large and in charge that he might be able to give water to everybody who's thirsty, which says to all of us, number one, my dream is a God-given dream when it blesses other people. Everybody repeat after me. My dream is a God-given dream when it blesses other people. If the only person who is blessed by your dream is you, that dream did not come from God. The problem with many of us is not that we want to be blessed, but many of us want to be blessed for all of the wrong reasons. We want to be blessed for our own personal gain, but nobody wants to be blessed in order to be a blessing to somebody else. The old people said it like this: if God can get a blessing through you, he does not mind getting a blessing to you. Ask the person beside you, can God get a blessing through you? Just go ahead and ask him, can God get a blessing through you? When God fulfills your dream, you know that your dream is a God-given dream when it blesses other people. There are three things tonight that we learn inside of this text. The first thing that we learn from the story of Joseph is that adversity is the transportation to the fulfillment of God's dream. Everybody repeat after me. Adversity is transportation to the fulfillment of my God-given dream. Is there anybody in here on tonight who's ever experienced adversity, who's ever faced adversity? Is there anybody in here on tonight who's ever wanted to quit because of the adversity? Who's ever wanted to give up? Who's ever wanted to throw in the towel because of the adversity? And you're asking God to take the adversity away. And many of us don't recognize that the very thing that we're asking God to take away is the very thing that God is using as transportation in order to get us to the place that God's ordained for us to be, that he might be able to fulfill our dreams. So sometimes, instead of us crying about the adversity, you got to thank God for the adversity, because God's using it as a vehicle in order to get you to the place where your dream comes to pass. Such is the case in the life of Joseph. In Genesis 37, Joseph has a dream. Somebody shout, he has a dream. Genesis chapter number 50, his dream comes to pass. Somebody shout, his dream comes to pass. But his dream does not come to pass until he experiences adversity. What kind of adversity does Joseph experience? In Genesis 37, please read it when you get a chance. He has a dream, and the first thing that we notice is that he speaks his dream to his brothers. When he speaks his dream to his brothers hate him because of his dream, and they hate him because he's favored by his father. They hate him, and his dream has not even come to pass yet. There are people who hate you and you don't even have anything yet. Can you imagine if they hate you and God has yet to bring my dream to pass, how much more they are going to hate you when God fulfills your dream and drops it inside of your lap? So notice the adversity that Joseph experiences. He speaks his dream to people. They can't handle it. And the very people who should encourage him, his own brothers, start to hate him because of his dream and the favor of his father. So they throw him into a pit. They sell him into slavery. But when he gets into slavery, the favor of God is still on him. Potiphar notices that everything he touches prospers. So Potiphar puts him in charge in slavery. I want you to know that when God's favor is on you, it doesn't matter what kind of situation you find yourself in, you can still prosper even in a bad situation. He's large and in charge. The wife of Potiphar comes on to Joseph, but he doesn't just have a dream, he also has integrity. Never allow your gift to take you to a place that your character and your integrity is not able to keep you. So he doesn't just have a dream, but he has integrity, and he does not lie with the wife of Potiphar. And because he does not lie with her, she lies on him. I'm going to say it again. Because he does not lie with her, she lies on him. Potiphar believes the lie, throws him into the prison. When he gets to the prison, the king and all of the land has a dream and needs somebody to interpret it. And guess who interprets the dream of the king? It's Joseph. So watch this. He experienced adversity, but his adversity was transportation to the fulfillment of his dream. How do I know that? If Joseph never had a dream, he never would have spoke it. If he never would have spoke it, his brothers would not have hated. If his brothers did not hate him, they wouldn't have thrown him into a pit. If they didn't throw him into a pit, they wouldn't have sold him into slavery. If they didn't sell him into slavery, he wouldn't have been lied on by Potiphar's wife. If he wasn't lied on by Potiphar's wife, he wouldn't have been thrown into the prison. If he wasn't thrown into the prison, he wouldn't have interpreted the dream of the king. If he never interpreted the dream of the king, his dream never would have come to pass. I want you to understand that adversity, somebody shout adversity, is transportation to the fulfillment of my dream. Here's the second thing that we learn from the life of Joseph. God brings my dream to pass when I help others with their dream. I'm going to say it again. God brings my dream to pass. Everybody say it. God brings my dream to pass when I help other people with their dream. So many of us are saying, God, bring my dream to pass. But the question is, who have you helped? Who have you blessed? Who have you served? Who have you sold into? Because God's not going to bring it to pass until you bless somebody else and you help somebody else. Notice when Joseph is thrown into the prison, he is in the prison with a cupbearer and a baker. What is a cupbearer? The cupbearer is the person who tastes the king's drink and tastes the king's food prior to the king tasting his own drink and his own food, that in the event that somebody tried to poison the king, the cupbearer would be poisoned and not the king. So obviously the cupbearer has made the king mad in Genesis 41, and the king has put the cupbearer in the prison. He has also thrown the baker in the prison, and the cupbearer and the baker, they both have a dream. Somebody shout, they both have a dream. They need somebody to interpret it. Joseph says that interpretations come from God. So Joseph says that God is going to interpret your dream through me. He interprets the dream of the cupbearer and says that God's going to restore you to your rightful position. Because he had a good interpretation for the cupbearer. Watch this. It is the baker who now wants his interpretation, but his interpretation is not good, it's bad. Joseph says to the baker that although God's going to restore the cupbearer, the baker is getting ready to be killed. But Joseph said to the cupbearer, when God restores you, please do not forget about me. And the moment that God restored the cupbearer and got him out of prison in Genesis 41, the cupbearer forgot all about Joseph. Ain't it a trip when you bless people and they forget about you? Ain't it a trip when you help people and they forget about you? Isn't it hurtful when you bless people and you bend over backwards, and after all that you've done, they act like they don't even know you? Such is the case with the cupbearer. He gets out of the prison, but although he forgets about Joseph, the king of Egypt has a dream. And the king needs somebody to interpret the dream. And watch this. The cupbearer says to the king, I know somebody who can interpret it, but the problem is the one who can interpret it is in prison. Joseph has a gift of interpreting dreams, and he's in prison. Can I pause to tell somebody, some of the most gifted people are behind bars. Some of the most gifted people are in prison. You got to be careful how you frown your nose down on people, because you don't know who you're going to need in order to be a blessing to your life, in order to help your dream come to pass. You can't frown your nose down on people just because of the mistakes that they made inside of their lives. You made mistakes too. You just didn't get caught like everybody else. So he interprets the dream of the king in Genesis 41. The king lifts him out of the prison, puts him in charge over all of Egypt, puts him in charge of the food distribution while the land is in a famine, and Joseph's dream came to pass. But I want you to understand that Joseph's dream did not come to pass in Genesis 41 verses 37 through 40 until he interpreted the dream of the king in Genesis 41 verses 14 13 through 36. He helped somebody else with their dream, and then God fulfilled his dream. I wish somebody can get this tonight. I'm going to say it again. He helped somebody else with their dream, and then God fulfilled his dream. God brings my dream to pass when I help others with their dream. Here's the last thing. Put it up, and we're going to get ready to answer some questions. Watch this. In Genesis 37 through Genesis chapter number 41, Joseph interpreted the dream of the king. But what amazes me is not that he interpreted the dream of the king. He did it after he was thrown into the pit, sold into slavery, lied on by Potiphar's wife, thrown into the prison. Then he interprets the dream of the king. In other words, he interpreted the dream of the king even though it seemed as if his own dream was falling apart. He spoke his dream, and immediately after he spoke it, the exact opposite thing of what he spoke started to take place. Sound familiar? He spoke it, and immediately after he spoke it, the exact opposite thing that he spoke started to take place. It seemed as if his dream was falling apart. But sometimes when it looks like things are falling apart, they're really falling together. I wish somebody could hear what I'm saying. Because his adversity that made it look like it was falling apart was really his transportation to the fulfillment of his dream. But what amazes me is not that he interpreted the dream of the king. What amazes me is that he interpreted the dream of the king when his own dream was falling apart. He could have had an attitude. He could have had this attitude that mine ain't working out, so I ain't going to help nobody else. But he made up inside of his mind, mine may not look like it's working out right now. But even though I can't see God, I'm going to trust him when I can't trace him. And I'm going to put my efforts in order to blessing somebody else, because I know that when I bless somebody else, if God does it for them, God would also do it for me. So the question I want to leave you with on tonight is, can I help somebody with their dreams when my dreams seem to be falling apart? Not just can I help somebody, I want to ask this question. Can I help somebody with their dreams? Somebody shout, when my dreams seem to be falling apart. Say it again into the whole east side hears you. When my dreams seem to be falling apart. Let the church say amen. Amen. All right, that's 20 minutes of teaching. If you have any questions, text the word NRS Church to 22333. Text the word NRS Church to 22333, and you can ask your questions. I'm sure that some of you have already been asking questions. You can pull it in a little bit closer so we can get a center shot. And let's ride. What we got? What we got on tonight?
All right. First question for tonight. What should I do if I don't understand my dream?
If you do not understand your dream, talk to the one who gave you the dream. And the one who gave you the dream is God. It is God's will for you to understand, but sometimes he may not reveal understanding at the moment that you want it. So continue to ask God what the meaning of the dream is. Continue to ask God exactly what he's trying to say to you through that dream. Talk to God, and eventually, if you go to God in sincerity, I believe that God will give me understanding, because number one, it's his will to give me understanding. The scripture declares in Proverbs, in all of thy getting, get what? In all of thy getting, get what? It says, get understanding. So we know his will by his word. And in his word, he says, in all of thy getting, get understanding. And also we know that if we're asking God sincerely in prayer, watch this, that God is a God who answers our prayers. So talk to the one who can give you understanding, and he may give it to you directly. He may just drop it inside of your spirit and the light bulb may go off. He also may give it to you indirectly by sending somebody your way in order to interpret the dream on your behalf. But you got to be open. You got to be open.
All right. How do I know when it's the right time to tell people about my dream? And how do I know who to tell my dreams to?
That's very, very difficult. Because you notice the moment that Joseph voiced his dream, he started to experience adversity. And he could have made up inside of his mind, I never should have told anybody, because if I didn't tell anybody, I never would have experienced this adversity. But at the same time, remember, one of the major points that we just got finished making in our Bible study is that the adversity that he experienced was his transportation to the fulfillment of his dream. So on one hand, speaking your dream is a catch-22, because if you never speak it, nobody knows about it. If nobody knows about it, nobody's going to say anything about it. But the moment you open your mouth and you speak it, you take a chance, because some people are going to be infatuated with the dream, and some people are going to hate you because of the dream, because God did not give it to them. But you have to understand that when you speak it, it sets things in motion. I'm going to say it again. When you speak it, it sets things in motion. I really don't know if I can tell you who to tell about your dream. Joseph told his brothers. You would think that if I could share my dream with anybody, I could share it with the people inside of my own family. And it was the people inside of his own family who didn't want to see him prosper. It was the people inside of his own family who did not want to see him succeed. So once again, pray about who to share your dream with. But know that when you speak it in some kind of way, even if you don't experience it the same way that Joseph experienced it, you will experience adversity. Somebody shout adversity. But when you experience adversity, remember this: adversity is God's transportation to the fulfillment of your dream. Is that good?
It's good. It's good. All right. How do I stay in expectation of my dream coming to pass in the midst of adversity?
How do I stay in expectation of my dream coming to pass in the middle of adversity? Because sometimes adversity can make you want to quit. It can make you want to give up. Is there anybody who's ever been excited when God has given you a dream? Anybody? Is there anybody who's ever been excited when God brought your dream to pass? Anybody? But the difficult moment to be excited is the in-between. Does everybody hear what I'm saying? The difficult moment to be excited is the in-between. So watch this. When God gives me a dream, I'm on the mountaintop. When God fulfills my dream, I'm on another mountaintop. But it's difficult to maintain the spirit of excitement and expectations, not when I'm in the valley, but when I'm between mountains. I wish you could hear what I'm saying. It's difficult to maintain the spirit of excitement and expectation, not when I'm in the valley, but when I'm between mountains. Pastor Beavers, that don't make sense. You're saying the same thing. It's according to how you see it. I'm saying the same thing, but I'm looking at it as the glass being half full and not half empty. How do you see it? Do you see yourself in the valley, or do you see yourself as, I ain't in the valley, I'm just between mountains? This is just the in-between period. You got to make sure that you have a healthy focus when you are between mountains. You got to make sure that you have a healthy focus when you are in the valley, because it's easy to get discouraged. But if you keep your focus on God, God can help you manage that period when you are between mountains. And although you'll be tempted to lose excitement, you'll stay focused on God. And watch this. A dream is one of the most exhilarating things that God could ever give you. But it's also one of the most painful things that God could ever give you. It's exhilarating when you think about that God wants to use you to fulfill something to bless so many people. But it's painful when you see everything that you got to go through in order to get to the fulfillment of your dream. And so sometimes it seems like I'm on an emotional roller coaster. Sometimes when it seems like things are going well, I'm doing good and I'm smiling. Sometimes when things are going bad, I'm doing bad and I'm frowning on the inside and I'm trying to keep it together on the outside. Is there anybody who's ever been there before? But if I'm going to maintain my spirit of excitement, I got to keep my focus not on people, not on what people are saying. I got to keep my focus on God and what he said, because at the end of the day, stop getting mad at people because they don't agree and they don't believe. God didn't speak to them. He spoke to you. And he's holding you accountable for what he spoke to you.
I like that. All right. How do I know which dream to focus on when I have multiple dreams?
How do I know which dream to focus on when I have multiple dreams? Sound like me. Got so much you want to accomplish, don't even know where to start. First question I would ask to the person who asked that question, I would ask this question right here. What are you most passionate about? At this particular moment in time in your life, where is your passion? Do not focus on anything where you are not passionate about that particular thing. The second question I would ask is, where can you gain the most momentum? Let the church shout momentum. Say it again, momentum. What am I most passionate about? What can I gain the most momentum? Because sometimes you can have multiple things that you want to accomplish, multiple things that God has placed inside of your heart to do, but you just need that one domino to fall. And if you can get that one domino to fall, everything else is going to fall simultaneously, but you got to focus on what you have the most momentum around at this particular moment in time in order to know where to start.
All right. Next question, can you give an example of how I can help others with their dreams?
An example of how we can, yes, I can give an example. So March is Show Me My Dreams. Everybody shout, show me my dreams. The first example is the biblical example that I gave on tonight. Joseph had a dream. His dream seems as if it was falling apart, but he helped the cupbearer, he helped the baker, and he helped the king with their dreams by interpreting their dreams, even when it seems like their dream was falling apart. Here's an earthly example. On last year, we were pursuing, and still are pursuing in some shape, form, or fashion, we were pursuing Century Plaza Mall. When we got to the end of last year, we learned that the mall had been purchased. Not only were we pursuing the mall, we were pursuing a school. And when we got to the end or the beginning of this year, we learned that the school did not necessarily work out. So we spoke the dream to the city, and immediately after we spoke it to the city, the exact opposite started to be set in motion and started to take place. But I believe with all of my heart, some way, somehow, if the principles of the Bible are true, that adversity is transportation to the fulfillment of God's dream. I don't know how it's going to work out, but I know it's getting ready to work out. So rewind about 2 days later, there was a news article that broke out that my dear friend, Pastor Mike Jr. of the Rock Church, we went to Minor High School together, and Pastor Mike Jr. of the Rock Church, we're really, really good friends. We talk maybe about 2 or 3 times a week. Central Park Baptist Church in West End just gave him the whole property. Not only did they give him the whole property, gave him the whole school. Fully accredited school, fully gave him the whole property. So on one hand, I'm with my boy. We talking 2 or 3 times a week, and we talking all last year, and I got this big dream. I speak it, and it seems like the exact opposite takes place. Then we get to the beginning of this year, and he virtually has the same dream on the west side of town, and the church gives him the property, and the church gives him the school. So let me hip you to a little something. At the end of last year, Pastor Mike Jr., we were talking, and he said, you know what? I feel in my heart, you know, I grew up in Central Park, and I feel like God may be calling us back to this area. I said, well, go get it then. He said, well, man, he said, you know, I've been trying, but they won't give me the time of day. It's like I'm calling, they screening my calls, I'm emailing, they screening my emails. I knock on the door, they won't even open the door. It's like, well, hold on, I think I know a contact at Central Park Christian. Now, mind you, our dream looked like it's falling apart. But I said, you know, I think I know a contact. So I made a quick phone call. They gave me the contact. I shot him back the contact, and the rest is history. So that is how you... Now, I'm not saying I did it. I ain't do it. But what I'm doing, I'm answering the question. The question was, how do you help somebody else in the fulfillment of their dream? And I take it another further, because when we look at the text and we study Joseph, how do I not just help somebody else? How do I help somebody else when it looks like my dream is is falling apart? And I want you to know, not only, and I wasn't going to say this, but I said it at 12 noon, so I shared with the 6:45 p.m. crowd tonight so everybody can get it. Not only did we make a phone call, but yesterday we sold financially. Y'all don't understand. We sold financially into the Rock Church and what God is doing, because guess what? There is no secret what God can do. What he's done for... Does anybody believe that?
So next question, does God give a dream to everyone?
Does God give a dream to everyone? I really don't know how to answer that, but I'm going to give it my best shot. Does God give a dream to everyone? Everyone has an innate desire inside of them to be better than what they are and to do better than where you are. So if you consider being better than what you are and doing better than where you are, if you consider that a dream, I believe that God gives that to everybody.
If my dream doesn't bless others, should I stop pursuing it?
If my dream does not bless other people, should I stop pursuing my dream? One of the first things that we learn in tonight's study at the start is that you know that you have a God-given dream when it doesn't just benefit you, but it blesses other people. So the first question you have to ask, did God give me this dream, or did I concoct this dream and manufacture it myself? I'm going to say it again. Did God give me this dream, or did I just make this up and concoct it and put this together myself? The second thing that you have to ask is that if it does not bless others and it is not of God, do you want something to happen that is not of God? God is always in the spirit of blessing other people. Go back to the question, because I think I got off track.
Does God give a dream to everyone?
Does God? No. I answered that one.
Did you? Oh, I'm reading questions here, trying to keep up. I'm sorry. If my dream doesn't bless others, should I stop pursuing it?
I would say pray about it. Pray about it. Pursue whatever God gives you. That's the only thing I want to be in pursuit of. So if God gave it to you, pursue it. If God did not give it to you, don't pursue it. Just pray about it. God will speak when you pray.
I was reading this question. It was a good one. I just kind of got off track. It seems like this message relates to NRS and our vision to develop the East Side. How can NRS help others with their dream?
Yes, so I think I just kind of answered that in the other question. It does relate to New Rising Star Church. We spoke it to the city. The exact opposite took place. Now we're not in the valley. We're between mountains. We are experiencing adversity. But we're not going to give up, because we know that adversity is what? I got a good class on tonight. Everybody say adversity is what? It's transportation to get you to the place that God desires for you to be. So sometimes when it seems like things are falling apart, they're really falling in place. You don't know how God is going to bless you. So with that, anytime you have the opportunity to sow into somebody else's dream, anytime you have the opportunity to sow manpower, to give time, to give talent, to give treasure into somebody else's dream, those are ways that you can do it.
Amen. Do you have to speak your dream in order for it to come to pass?
I can't necessarily say you have to speak it, but at some point in time, you got to believe it. And there's a scripture in the Psalms that says, I believe, therefore I have spoken. Does everybody hear what I'm saying? So really, you only speak what you believe. If you don't believe it, you're not going to say nothing. So I don't know if you have to speak it for it to come to pass, but the sign that you're able to speak it out of your mouth is that you really believe what you're saying. Now, when I believe that God first showed me this vision of what we're going to do on the east side of town, I was scared to speak it. I was scared to open my mouth and say anything, but I came to a point to where I was able to speak it to myself, and then I came to a point to where I was able to speak it to y'all, which was another step. And then I came to a point to where I said, well, I'm out here now. I might as well speak it to everybody. Speak it to everybody.
All right, next question. How do we deal with dreams that sometimes shows us difficult times, or that you are to keep people from danger?
How do we deal with dreams that shows us difficult times? Pray about it. Ask God for wisdom. Ask God, what am I to do about this dream? How do I deal with dreams that shows I'm to keep people from danger? When God gives you a dream concerning somebody else, sometimes it is for you to tell that person. Sometimes it's for you to shut your mouth and just pray. Sometimes you can keep people from danger by telling them and opening your mouth. And sometimes telling them and opening your mouth can make it all the more worse. So sometimes you can keep them from danger by actually telling them and physically protecting them, or sometimes you can keep them from danger by simply praying and warring in the spirit on their behalf. It's 7:56. I want to answer all these questions, but I'll take one more and then we're going to raise up. All
right, this last one is kind of really off the subject, but is drinking and gambling a sin?
You did that on...
It's a question.
All right. If I tell y'all the truth, y'all ain't gonna... And he walked off the stage. All right, so is drinking a sin? Drinking is not a sin. The sin is getting drunk. I'm going to say it again. Drinking is not a sin. If drinking was a sin, why did they have wine at the Last Supper? But remember, they did it in remembrance of him. When you drink wine, what you thinking about? You thinking about Johnny Taylor. All right. The sin is not drinking. The sin is to get drunk. At the same time, if you have a problem with drinking or anything, you want to stay away from what tempts you. You get what I'm saying? I got to stay as far away from my temptation as I possibly can, because some sins are not meant for you to fight. You just got to run away from them. All right? Because I don't want to put myself in a position. Now, if you don't have a problem, drinking is not a sin, but the sin is getting drunk. Now, deacons, you can have a little wine. Preachers and pastors, bishops, you can't have no wine. All right? Deacons, you can have a little bit. That's what the scripture says. But at the same time, even if you have a little bit, do not exercise your right in public, because watch this. What we do in moderation as leaders, people are going to do in excess. Can you imagine if you was out and you saw me with a bottle and a brown paper sack turning it up? Shoot, pastor drinking. Turn up then, cuz. All right, so the sin is getting drunk. Is gambling a sin? Gambling is not a wise way to use your money. Gambling is not a wise way to use your money. Before I call it a sin, I need to do some more research. I'm not all wise. I'm not all knowing. So I'm going to do some more research on that question. But I do know that it is not a wise way to use. If you gambling to make a come up that says you don't trust God, and not trusting God is a sin. Stand up. Let's go.